He's also known as, I always call him Mr. Fantastic, so that's my name for him, so.
Check 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. All right. So we've got a conference coming up October 21st through the 23rd, and it's Steve Backlund. He's going to be right here in this very place. There's no charge. We're going to have a meeting on Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday. He's an incredible gentleman, and we're really looking forward to having him. He's one of the principals out in Bethel, and just a mighty man of God, and we're really going to enjoy him. So if you want a flyer, they're out here in the hallway. Pick one up on the right-hand side on the way out. Okay? Thank you. So, since Pastor Don's not here, right? Pastor Phil's not here. So let's talk about them for a moment. I think it's interesting that they both have the same first name. Pastor Don, Pastor Phil. And it's even more amazing that they're both working at the church. I mean, think about it. What are the odds of that, right? Having that same first name. I had that name once, but I prefer to go by Rick. So, which reminds me, what do John the Baptist and Kermit the Frog have in common? They have the same middle name. Oh, come on. You didn't pay to get in here. So don't act like you did. All right. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm talking about tonight or misunderstand my intention. I do not like to get political in church. In my own life, I have my own strong opinions about things, right? But I never want to alienate 50% of the people that could be listening online, hello online, or the people that are sitting in here. We don't ever want to do that, right? I mean, why do that? How can you win them over when you're busy doing this all the time, right? That's not what we want to do. But what I do want to talk about is truth. Truth is something that seems to have gotten lost lately. Anybody following that? It's Mick? You got me, right? Yeah. So for the last couple of weeks, God's been speaking to me about that, and I hope and intend only to speak what the Father speaks and speak the truth in love. If not, what it says, 1 Corinthians 1 and 2, 13, 1 and 2. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but what? Do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but what? Do not have love, I'm nothing. So, I want to share this in love as best I can. And if there are any complaints, send them to me, Don Storiano. You can find my address on the website, so I'll pay for that one. So, there are many people who deny that there even is absolute truth. They insist that truth is relative, that what is true for one may not be true for all or another. Or what's been true in the past is not necessarily true today. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. They claim that it's all in the way you see it, and it really doesn't matter how you see it, because in the final analysis, nobody has the ultimate answers. So the world is busy telling us what we know to be true is really not true at all. And that we are to be condemned, ashamed, and canceled when we even think that our truths differ from the narratives are true. Because there's a narrative out here. So groupthink has replaced the truth. And if enough people say it, and often It must be true, right? They repeat it over and over. Well, you've heard that phrase, right? It says, tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. Well, they contribute that to Joseph Goebbels, who was a minister of propaganda for Adolf Hitler. And so that's a really rough place to go when you want to compare somebody to that. But the truth is, he never said it. That's not the truth. But that lie is repeated all the time. And during the last election cycle for the president, it was repeated on both sides of the aisle. And people were busy comparing one another to Joseph Goebbels. And so that was a lie put on a lie. And if you hear it often enough, it just gets picked up and amplified. Every major news outlet was repeating that lie. Every major news outlet was repeating it over and over again. And then, if you do that long enough, the lie repeated becomes the evidence of the truth. Do you see what I'm saying? That becomes, well, how do you know this? Well, I heard it over here. I heard it over there. And the lie becomes its own evidence. And that's what's going on in our culture today, and it's not good. Actually, for all we know, the quote originated with a medieval peasant. You know, it's been around longer than any of us have been alive. But you and I live in a society where it's inappropriate to speak about a lot of things because they have decided that the truth is flexible. The truth is fluid. Oxford Dictionaries in 2016, the word of the year was called post-truth. They say we live in a post-truth era. The word of the year in 2016. Now, I'm really surprised that it coincided with an election year, right? Right. Because it was all the thing about the big lie, right? And so we're in a post-truth era. Well, the fact that it's even a word at all speaks volumes about this country and about our society today. That it's even in the dictionary, that it's even a word. Well, you and I live in a society where it's deemed inappropriate to say there are only two genders, right? There are so many rules and categories just for determining who we are conversing with that no one can follow all the guidelines. We live in a culture where a female Supreme Court justice nominee will not even speak the definition of what a woman is. When asked the simple question, can you describe to me what you think a woman is? And I understand why she didn't want to give the answer. She said, I'm not a biologist. And I understand why she didn't want to give the answer because so much would rise up against her on either side, no matter what she said, right? That's the society we live in today. We live in a society where we're expected to believe that men can get pregnant. And women's sports is really just a free-for-all now, right? That the seas are rising, and according to predictions that I'm familiar with, we've only got about 9 years to turn it around before we're done. We live in a place that says COVID came from a rogue bat. No, wait, it came from a wet market in Hunan. Oh, but wait a minute. You can't say where it came from because it's racist to say where it came from. All we know is if you get the shot, you won't get COVID, right? None of it was true, right? None of it was true. But the truth becomes what is repeated often enough, that it's repeated by everyone and accepted by society. You know, my father died about 2 years ago, and he was 87. He had many issues, failing heart, kidneys, UTI. He had it all going on. Took him to the hospital, and they says, oh, by the way, he's got COVID. So when he passed peacefully, and it's a beautiful story, but I won't go into that right now. But what did they put on his his death certificate, do you think? He died of COVID. Why did they do that?
More people that die of COVID,
They get more money. So the truth of my dad's death, I see it, it's not true at all. That's not why he died. That's not what he died from, nor the complications thereof. The truth just doesn't seem to matter to so many. So I want to quote an unexpected source, and it's called, he was a desert monk in the 3rd century in Egypt, and his name was Saint Anthony the Great. But I found this quote a couple of weeks ago, and it just won't let me alone. It says, "The time is coming when men will go mad. And when you see someone who is not mad, they will attack him saying, 'Well, you're mad. You're not like us.'" Do you understand what that says? When the groupthink creates its own reality and you don't go along with it, then you're the crazy one, right? That was 1,700 years ago that he said that. Do you think it's true today? Is that not true? If you don't go with the groupthink, then you're crazy. You know, how can you think that? And if we don't believe what groupthink is set before us, and that it's fact, we're expected to believe it? No, we're required to believe it under fear of being canceled, shamed, and ridiculed. Every day there's a new list of things that you can't say and a new list of things that you should say. Just 2 days ago, the Cato Institute put out a study, and it said that 62% of Americans are afraid to speak in public about things because they're afraid they're going to get it wrong. Now, that's really sad, isn't it? I'm going to use the wrong pronoun. I'm going to make somebody upset. You know, we live in a society where today, they put out a study, 60% of Generation X, which I don't even know what that is. What generation are you guys, right? You know, there's X, there's Y, I don't really know what's what. But 62% of Generation X believes that thumbs up emoji is passive aggressive. So let's see how that works. Did I scare anyone? You know, I mean, is anyone traumatized? Did I trigger anything in you? Huh? Think about it. 62% of an entire generations of Americans find that to be offensive. What are they doing? What are we doing? Oh, man. Ooh, that's scary. We'll do that in Halloween, right? Let's just go around the neighborhoods going. So, a senator, Daniel Monahan, once quipped, "Everyone is entitled to his opinion, but not his own facts." Well, now we can't even agree on what the facts are. Truth becomes whatever narrative we hear most often, and what did I say earlier? The lie becomes its own evidence, right? So, in John 18:33 through 38, our Lord stood trial before Pontius Pilate. Now, Pontius Pilate was a procurator for Rome, and he was like a governor. And he was in a situation where he didn't understand Jewish people, he didn't understand Jewish customs. And the The Jews were complaining to Rome about him, so he's got this dilemma before him, right? He's got Jesus, and then he's got Barabbas, right? And so he doesn't want to anger the Jews. He doesn't want them to go, but he doesn't know what to do. So he comes to Jesus, and he comes in a room by himself with Jesus, thinking he'd have a personal conversation with the accused, and it might help him make a more intelligent decision. Well, that was all well and good. So he came in and said, "Are you the king of the Jews?" This is not working. Here we go. "Are you the king of the Jews?" And after Jesus explained that, yes, he was the same king of the Jews. And he explained that his kingdom wasn't of this world. Well, Pilate persisted with his questioning. So you're a king? Jesus replied, "You say correctly that I am a king. For this I have been born, and for this I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." And at that, Pilate just threw up his hands and went, "What is truth?" Like, ugh. Well, then he ran out of the room, and if he'd have stuck around a little bit, Jesus could have told him what the truth was. But he was like so many others, he didn't really want to know the answer. He was really what he was doing was expressing skepticism about the whole subject of truth. He was doubtful there was any such thing, or that anyone could know it if there was. Well, here's a fact, and I'll declare it an absolute truth. There's one voice that stands above the other, and it's heard in John 14:6, and it says, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life." That's where you and I find our truth. The rest of it does not matter. And it doesn't matter what the world thinks. It only matters what he thinks. Amen? Amen. That's our truth. In him and in his word is where we find the truth. Knowing the truth and speaking the truth are both found in having a growing relationship with God. That's what you have, right? You have a growing relationship with God. That's how you know the truth. Romans 3:4 says, "Indeed, let God be true, but every man a liar. As it's written, that you may be justified in your words and may overcome when you are judged." So, in other words, not if, but when God speaks truth, any man who tells you anything to the contrary is a liar. That's just it. But to you who believe the truth of the living God, you'll be justified in your words, and you will overcome what? When the world judges you. James 1:22 through 25 says, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but doesn't do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whosoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do." We can only speak the truth if we know the truth. The Bible is the definitive word of truth. Amen. You know, this country was founded on the word of truth. Right? Mick, when you were growing up, was anyone confused about what a man and woman was? There were a lot of things that we weren't confused about. This country was founded on the Word, and up until the latter part of my lifetime was the unquestionable arbiter of truth, and still is as far as I'm concerned. Personally, until I was 33 years old, I created my own truths. That didn't always work out so well for me or other people around me. Then I met the truth. The one who is the way and the truth and the life. And after our meeting, I sat down and read the truth. In 6 weeks, cover to cover, I discovered 2 things. The voice that was speaking on the first page, on page 453, 692, 1112, and in the very end saying, "Behold, I am coming soon," that was the same voice. That's what I learned. You know, I've read a lot of books. I've always had my favorite authors, and I know my favorite authors when they write. You could lay down 5 sheets in front of me, and I could pick them out, right? And I can tell you, the Word being written by 40 men over a period of 1,500 years, when I read it like a novel from page 1 till the very end, "Behold, I am coming soon," it's the same voice. And that is the voice of truth. Well, when I read it, I can't say I immediately understood all of the truth I'd read, but I did understand that my truth wasn't his truth. And I immediately decided that I liked his truth better. You know, people, the truth will set us free. In John 8:31 and 32, Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." The truth isn't a cage, folks. It's liberating. That's what it does. The truth sets us free. Amen. You know, when I pastored in Indianapolis, I had an intercessor, and she was really good at what she did. And she led a team. And one day she asked me a question, and I said, "Well, you know the answer to that question. You've been doing this a long time." And she said, "I think I know the answer to the question, but I want to make sure." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "I want to know where the fences are in what I am allowed to do or should do or I'm supposed to do. And then if I know where those fences are, I can run free." Right? Does that make sense? If I know where the fences are, I can run free. So that's what the truth does. It sets us free so we can do what we need to do without fear in the safety of our Father's presence. That's liberty. There's liberty in understanding his word and understanding the truth. You know, I feel sorry for the kids, generations that are coming up behind us. I think about my grandkids. And I think about their kids and the kids after. I'm just praying God turns this thing around, where the truth can remain the truth. Amen. And it's going to take us who believe the truth and in the truth. We're going to have to stand on the truth. We need to stand on it for ourselves and for our families. You know, the truth is not negotiable. And it doesn't change like an amoeba. It doesn't just like move around in this nebulous thing. The truth remains the truth. And we need to operate that way. So if you find out what the truth is, then you know where the fences are, and you can just run free. You know that you're in God's will, right? And then we have an answer. You know, we don't want to be oppositional. We always have to speak whatever truth we have in love. Amen? We don't want to be oppositional. I don't want to argue with somebody about it. But I'm not going to let their truths become my truths. Right? We have to stand on who we are and what we know. And we can't really be afraid to just say, "Hey, that's not what I believe. That's not what I understand. That's not what I know to be true." Philippians 4:8 and 9 says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy," what? Think about those things, right? Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice. And the God of peace will be with you. You know, I'm not on a downer about this because I know God will prevail. And I've read the book, We Win. It's right here. We win. We win. And I'm not worried about that, but I am worried about where our society is right now. You know, you guys know who the notorious serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer is, right? But you realize on Netflix right now, out of the top 3 shows, there are 2 different movies about him, and one of them's number 1 in the nation, and the other one's number 3. That tells me something. We're in a dangerous spot when that's what you want to see, and that's the most popular movie in the nation. I mean, this guy was serving 16 life sentences when he was killed in prison. That worries me, that is what passes for entertainment nowadays. We got to get back to doing and saying and seeing the right things. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I was telling Susan, I'm just almost ready to turn. I've always been a news guy. I like news. And I've always liked politics. I mean, when I was 18 years old and I was a radical kid, and I was very radical, I still was interested in politics. I mean, when I was 18 and I voted every election cycle since. But anymore, very little of what you see on TV is true. It's the repeated lie that becomes its own evidence. Well, it must be true, right? Well, it's not true. So we need to try to step back. I'm personally going to try to step back from all the ugliness online, in the movies, on TV, in the press, because it's not making me feel any better. Well, we have our own press, and that means we'll press into whatever is lovely. You know, the world clamors for Hollywood actors, sports figures, musicians, and they hang on their every word. They don't know any more than we know. And in most cases, they don't know half of what we know. They're just like us. They put their pants on one leg at a time. None of them levitate and pull their pants on. You know, they're just like us. And their truth has no more weight than ours. And in fact, if it's an imperfect truth, it doesn't have as much weight as ours does. So, we have the giver of truth, who's more admirable. He's the one who's most excellent, and he's praiseworthy. He is our truth. I say, don't let the world drag you down. Amen. Just don't let it happen. Come on. Don't believe in the lies. Don't become bitter at what you see or hear. That's a problem too, because we get angry, don't we? People get angry and things rise up in them. I'm telling you, people went crazy during COVID. They got on their keyboards and hammered. They'd say and do anything. And I believe that's starting to translate into society. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I had a guy that got mad at me at traffic the other day. And he was trying to actually run me off the road, force me into daylight on Cortez. Forced me into the curb. I'm going 40 miles an hour. I got my car, got the top down. Probably didn't like that idea. He's actually throwing things at me at 40 miles an hour and hitting me in my car. Foaming at the mouth with his eyes bulge out. It's like, what is wrong with you, dude? Well, I thought you ran up on me on that last light. And I said, no, you might have thought that, but I didn't do it. And he went, okay, I'm sorry then. That was after going from 75th Street clear up to the curve up here. The guy jumped out of his car twice, came back just like he's going to do it, you know? And the whole 2 lanes are stopped. And You know what? Nobody's honking their horn. Nobody wants to get in this one. Nobody wants to get in this one. And it's like, dude, how can you be that angry? And how can you think that's right? You know. And then I said, no, I didn't do anything. And he went, okay, I'm sorry. And then next corner, he honks and waves at me as he turns. Really? I mean, I made a new friend. Yeah. I'm surprised he's not here tonight. Catch you later out here on the highway. You know, there's just a whole lot of ugliness going on right now, right? And we have to be afraid of speaking the truth. No, we don't need to be afraid of speaking the truth. We need to be the ones that stand on the truth. I'm not trying to beat anybody up here. You know, Rodney King didn't get much right, but he did say, after he took that beating in LA in the 80s or 90s, he said, can't we all just get along? Well, we've come to a place now to where if you don't believe what I believe politically, you don't even want to talk to me, right? I can't even be your friend. Yeah. Seriously, when they do polls now, like 80% of one party and 60% of other party says, well, I can't even be their friends if they don't believe what I believe politically. Really? What happened to having an open mind, having discussion, and agreeing to disagree, and then still being friends? What happened to that? Anybody explain that one to me? It's okay. I mean, it's okay. You don't have to think what I think, but I still can love you and you can love me. Why not? You know, you're a nice person. I'm a nice person. Why? Why can't you talk to me? I don't care if you've known talk. You know, it's not even if you talk about politics or not. They just say they don't want to talk to you. And, you know, the younger generation, the XY, whichever one, you know, when they poll them, they don't want anything to do. They don't want to hear what you have to say. You know, it's just amazing. Someone has to throw the anchor out here, and I pray that God can prevail in our society. People think it's bad here. Maggie, is it bad here? Yeah. I mean, you live in Africa. Yeah, it's bad in Africa. I was there in April. It's bad in Africa. People need to understand how good this place is, how good we have it as a people and a society, and all the advantages that we have that the rest of the world doesn't have. You know, I've been to Africa 3 times, and Maggie lives there, and I can tell you, the people there are so appreciative of anything. They don't have electricity, they don't have power, they don't have running water, they don't have anything. And what you do for them, they generally appreciate. You know. Here, it's not been that way lately. I think we need to just start being kind to one another. Amen. We need to learn to love one another and put aside our differences. And you know, if the church doesn't model that first, it probably won't happen. So we have to do our very best. You know, I almost lost it with that guy the other day. You know, there's something that rises up in me. You know, I wasn't a Christian until I was 33 years old. And there's things that can rise up in me that I don't like. You ever get that? Am I the only one, or are we going to be honest here? Oh, yeah. You ever have something like, boom, you can just feel it coming up? Yeah, he got me to that point when he started bunking me in the head at 40 miles an hour with stuff. You know, it's like, and I didn't like the way I felt. And at that point, I didn't like my reaction. And I almost scared myself. You know, it's like, no, that's not who I am. And that's not who I want to be. We have to be the adults. We have to be the ones that tamp down the foolishness, the violence, the anger, the division. We have to set an example. Amen. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? Amen. There are no other options. There's no plan B here. We need to be the ones that set the example. You know, I've got on our cars, we have personalized plates. And that always reminds me that when I'm in traffic, it's easy to figure out, you know, I'm going to get this guy's plate. Oh, it says Pearl. A Pearl. That's what I call my car, Pearl. Well, I'm going to be easy to find. When you have something on your car that identifies you, it helps check you up a little bit too, right? So sometimes I need to remind myself of who I am and how I need to conduct my own life. And I can't say that I've always been the beacon of truth in my life, but I've tried very, very hard the last 30 or 40 years. And there's another scripture, and I don't have it in front of me, but I know what it says. Now is the time to put off falsehood and speak truthfully to one another as brothers and sisters in Christ. Right? We need to at least be honest with one another, right? That's a great place to practice, don't you think? We need to be the bearers of truth. And we find that in the Word, so we need to stay in the Word. And we'll always know what the truth is. We won't be like Pilate, just throws up his hands and goes, oh, what is truth? Well, he had the truth in front of him, and he didn't even know it. So I'll go right back here. Do not be bitter at what you see or hear, but believe everything, or don't believe everything is hopeless, and don't buy into the lie that you're helpless. Because you're more than conquerors. You have the truth before you, behind you is your rear guard, and within you. The truth lives within you, and it leads you in all truth. Isn't that what he said he'd do? He is our truth. Amen. So, that's my encouragement to you guys tonight. We need to live lives of truth, speaking truth, and reflecting truth any way that we can. And we got to do what we can to help bring the level down. Not be a part of it. Don't get on your keyboard and start clicking away. You know, some people may not like some of the things I said tonight, but it's still true. What I said was true. And I don't mean anything against anyone. I mean it for someone. So that's pretty much what I've got. So if you'd like to have prayer tonight, if you need help believing the truth or dwelling on the truth or standing in the truth, walking in the truth, and maybe there's some people online that haven't even accepted the truth. So if you need prayer, there are people here that will pray for you. And that's all I've got to say about that. Oh, no. No, no. Oh, come on. No. You guys are too easy. All right. Bless you all. Yay! Woo! Yay! Woo! Moonwalk.